Okay, everybody. It's now 6:33, so we'll get this started. Welcome to the Board of Directors meeting for May 22nd, 2025 at 6:30 p.m. Obviously, if you're already here, you found the Zoom link that's at the top of this page. First item is meeting call to order. For attendance, I have Royce Griffiths, myself, Ethan Coppage, Leon Starks, Carl Craig, and Athena Valesco. Any
Uh,
guests?
Swap the E and A. Thank you, pardon.
Thank you. Velasco. Much better. Guests in attendance, I have a Frankie Demento, a Jason Kratzer, and a Brian Ouellette. Oh,
You
and then
also,
the other gaggle that are with Leon.
yes, that would be Alelia, Damia, and Mimo.
Oh, you did get me that I was here while I was away. Excellent.
Uh, is Alelia Stark?
It's
It's Alicia Barnett. Allicia Barnett.
And there is an N after the Z in Katzner.
And after the Z, you said?
N is in Nancy. Yep.
Okay, perfect. And if Momo and
Mimo is
right, sorry.
Morgan Cook.
Basic, simple, without the E.
No E. Cook like the job.
Perfect. I spelled it right. I think maybe.
And then there's
Alexis Dispoto. Standard spelling for Alexis.
Dispoto.
Okay, perfect. Anybody else I am missing?
I actually changed my legal name to Dagger.
Show me. I'll show you.
You
Show me your
would.
ID, and then we'll put that on there. Okay, we will start off. Well, we weren't starting the recording. So, agenda item 0, reading of the last minute's meeting. So, over here on the left-hand side, I have the Board of Directors meeting for April 16th, which is the last time we met. We had all, the various officers as listed there in the attendance and the various guests. Last time we got attendance credit for attending. Huzzah! We also got the directors and officers insurance. The Alding passed to allow us to do the investigation, and so we had to go out and get the quote. I think we actually had the quote at the time, but we just didn't do it. Anyways, Ethereal Hollow and Stonehearth, we updated their contracts. The BOD is in the process of signing this. We really just need to get the right software to fix this problem. We'll talk about that more in a minute. Mailing address. We discussed about the mailing address that it's still listed as the iPostal, and the current one is Andy, who is actually not a Board of Directors member and is a Dragonvale member who is our Grand Duchy. So, but in the future, we could, move that around if the Grand Duchy splits off into a kingdom. Then there was the question about how many years do we want to average for budgeting purposes on events? The answer was 3 years, and we need to go update the Board of Directors handbook. Item number 6 was the 2024 taxes, which we filed on the 5th of April. Yay! And then we were also filing an FTB 3500A form, which is the California tax exemption form. We'll talk about that in a minute, but the answer was it was filed. The Darkshore final items, if anything was needed, the answer was there was no final items needed for Darkshore. So they were able to go off and have their event. And then I gave a talk about the good standing, keeping up with California's nonprofit reporting requirements. There's this lovely YouTube video. It's about an hour long. I recommend people watch it. It is a great thing. A lawyer hired by the California Nonprofit Association who is very familiar with nonprofits and how they handle it. That lawyer gave a lovely 1 hour talk about all of the major gotchas that are commonly made by people about how to do things. And one of the things, so we talked about all those various things. And one of the things we specifically talked about is maybe changing our CEO and CFO and how they work, but that'll all be future Alding. And then we close the meeting. Perfect. Any other questions on last month's meeting
Negative.
minutes?
I'd like to comment as someone on the BOD of a kingdom that spans like 8 different states. It's so nice to see that there's just like two states to file in.
Yes. We actually file everything in just California.
Oh, okay. Even better.
Yeah, even though we technically have parks in Hawaii and Nevada, the corporation is based in California. So, okay. Here is our agenda for this meeting for today. I will zoom in a little bit. So first, we will welcome the new monarch, Royce Griffith. You're fired as treasurer. You're hired as monarch. You're also now the CEO of this company.
No confidence.
No confidence. If anybody disagrees. You should have voted better. Okay, hey
You can
Monarch.
also all think to impeach me.
Yeah.
Yes, we're granting a credit for attendance.
Yay, we're getting a credit for everybody who shows up. Oh, Jason, you are of a different kingdom. So,
All right, I'll put it in the chat.
yeah, if you could throw that in the chat, that would be great so our poor PM can figure out where you're from and get you the appropriate credit for showing up. Thank you for showing up. Okay, now on to item 3. Royce, we just fired you as treasurer and hired you as CEO. So now we need to determine our treasurer position. Athena is our alternate. They automatically step up to the board of directors. I have included this excerpt here from our Corpora. I will make this large for us so we can see it. Section 10.2.3 of our Corpora says the board of directors shall elect from their numbers a treasurer who shall work closely with the prime minister in monitoring the
Catherine.
kingdom funds.
Basson.
Mhm.
AP.
No, I'm done with AP.
What are you doing now?
I'm not a wizard.
Mute yourselves, please.
Hey, okay, Leon, I am going to quickly mute you. Yeah, perfect. Okay. They shall work closely with the Prime Minister in monitoring kingdom funds. They shall perform unsolicited audits of the kingdom financial record, audit all records at the end of each Prime Minister term of office before they're turned over to the next Prime Minister, as well as in the middle of the Prime Minister's term, which is, hey, right about now, actually. And if necessary, seize all records and finances with the approval of the President, the disposition of which must be handled at the next BOD meeting, and maintain the kingdom's nonprofit status. So we have a few options here. Athena, we as the board of directors can vote to, you're the treasurer, or we can actually take this time and do a little changeroo if you don't want to take the treasurer position and somebody else wants to take the treasurer position. We actually, as far as I can tell, have that power to do that.
I'm more than happy to take up the treasurer position unless anyone else is like, you know what, I want to do that, or if they have a preference. Great, go for it. I doubt that's the case.
Okay. So I guess, does anybody else want to step up and be the treasurer? You get to put your name on our bank records. Super exciting. Okay, sounds like Athena is the only one to declare. So at this point, we do not have a secretary today. So, Carl, as our vice president, can I assign you the job of doing a roll call vote?
Sure. Here, where am I writing this stuff down?
I can do the writing. I just need you to run the.
All right. Roll call. All right. So I'm just calling for the people who are here.
Yes.
For the vote. All right. There. Where am I? Hold on. I got it. Da-da-da-da. Yes. No. Absent. All right. So I'm calling So I guess sorry. I'm not ready. Hold on. Let me get.
I'm kind of surprised is bringing on you.
Yeah. Give me a second. I'll find the thing. Here, where'd it go? Yeah, thank you, Aaron. All right. All right. Royce Griffiths. Yes, no, abstain.
Yes.
All right. Ethan.
Yes.
Leon Starks.
Yes.
Me, yes as well. And Athena.
Yeah, I'm here.
All right.
Do you vote for yourself to be treasurer?
Do you vote for yourself?
I guess, yeah.
Okay.
All right.
And then I think we have 2 not present.
Correct. Our liaison and our secretary.
Perfect. Okay. And it looks like with that passes. Thank you for doing that there. Okay, Athena, welcome. You are now the treasurer of Westmarch.
Woo!
We have to do another special section for some stuff at some point too.
Yeah, we will, because bank records, they love those.
Yeah, we've already started this, so like there's no point starting until the end, I think.
Yeah,
but that
we'll
is
do a
your
little
purview.
Yeah, we'll do a little 5-minute after session to run through that. I can copy and paste that real fast. Okay, with that, I believe we are done with item number 3. Does anybody have anything else they'd like to talk about?
Motion to close.
Perfect. I'm seconding. Moving along. Item number 4. Here are some reminders from the last meeting. 1, directors and officers insurance. We were supposed to actually put it on this Alding. The answer is it'll now be on the July Alding. So I have a quote that we may need to get refreshed. I'm not sure if it expires after 30 days, so I'll look into that. But we just need to get that onto the Alding to ask the kingdom to fund it. Yep. Then we had how many years do we want to average for budgeting purposes? The answer was 3 years. I forgot to update the BOD handbook this month, so I will go and take that action to get that updated for the next month. So this is my action. This is also my action. The CEO/CFO changed to the Kapora draft as an Alding item. I think that is also on me to do that drafting. Unless somebody else really wants to volunteer. Okay, it's on me. And then the contract updates with Ethereal Hollow and Stonehearth. This I will be poking people again to try and get these contract updates. We're just missing a few BOD signatures.
I have an idea for this.
Yes.
Milan, if we sent you the contracts, would you be willing to use your Adobe sign to get them sent out to sign?
Okay, looks like Milan might be busy right now. We will follow up with that later. So those are the reminders from the last meeting. Are there any other?
Sorry, I was muted. I can do that. I have friends at my old job that still have access to it, and I could get that done.
Okay. So I will do that as Ethan/Brian. I will work with you to get that done. Okay, so for then item number 4, do we have any other questions, comments, or concerns?
Motion to close.
I'm seconding that because I want to move along. Item number 5, Andril needs a land contract. Hey, we accepted a new land to our kingdom. So for those who don't know, I'm going to quickly pull up our most recent Kapora. And item 12 of our Kapora, we have this lovely thing here, which says general information about the kingdom contract. 12.1 says any AMCAR chapter wishing to join the Kingdom of Westmarch must complete the Westmarch contract and then be voted on by a 2/3 majority during a kingdom Alding. And then 12.2, it kind of says to do that in a different form, which is this agreement entered into the date that will be signed between the AMCAR Kingdom of Westmarch Inc. and the land, hereinafter sponsored, and the specific terms contained herein. AMCAR Kingdom of Westmarch, a nonprofit, agrees to sponsor the kingdom the land until such time as the contract may be terminated. The sponsor must meet the following terms as outlined below, sign this agreement, and send it back to Westmarch within 1 year of the Alding which accepts them. So we're following the 12.2 format because it makes more sense than the 12.1 format. So the Alding has been accepted by Westmarch. We are now sending this to the land. They will sign it and be accepted. Failure to do this, otherwise this agreement will be null and void. This document is not valid until signed by the following: the Westmarch monarch, the board of directors, the sponsored monarch, and the prime minister. And then here are the terms of the agreement and the relevant signatures. So a copy of this will be sent over to the current monarch and the current prime minister, yes, of the land. And we will get their names and signatures added to this. And hopefully, Milan, we will also be allowed to use you for that, to help us out with this contract. So we'll be having 3 documents sent over.
Yes, not a problem.
Perfect. I also highlight we need a better way to sign documents, and the answer is apparently bribe Milan. And by bribe, I mean ask him very nicely.
That works for a lot of things.
Perfect. Do we have any other questions about this land contract? I know, Jason, you were talking to us a little bit earlier in the Discord about, land contracts and everything else like that.
Yeah. So the kingdom, as the freehold agreement with AMCAR International, states that that contract is only valid up until the chapter is sponsored by a kingdom, because the assumption under the kingdom contract is that the chapter ceases to be a legal entity and is merged with the kingdom. Since it appears you do not do that, your chapters are distinct legal entities, The freehold contract may or may not still be in force. I advise you to contact JP Prentice, Medrin, AI Legal Counsel to discuss how that contract plays with your contract. The terms of the two contracts are very similar. My concern is that since your contract does not sub-license the Amcard International rights that you derive from your Kingdom contract to your chapter, the only thing that would be giving that freehold now sponsored land the rights to use Amcard International's intellectual property, i.e. the rulebook and name Amcard and all that, would be the freehold contract. But the freehold contract says they have to follow the freehold corpora, not the Westmarch corpora. So I would advise you to reach out to legal@amcard.com and make sure that your contract and your corpora are in keeping with the Kingdom contract, the freehold contract, and the Amcard rules of play.
Okay.
I'm just mostly just here to answer questions if you have any.
Yes. Okay, so specifically the part that we're talking about, so this is the standard, Amcard freehold contract. It's been this way, well, this 2009 version, so it's been this way for a while. In here, under the terms of the agreement section, third paragraph, this agreement terminates should the licensee, which is the freehold, be subsumed or merged with another entity or group that is already a licensee of Amcard Inc. under a separate agreement. So the concern that Jason's raising here is that we are not necessarily subsuming or merging that entity, according to their reading of it, is the concern. Do we have any questions about this? No? Okay. Shall we move along then?
Motion to close.
Okay, let's move along. California tax exempt status, the FTB 3500A form. This is kind of the California equivalent to the 501c3 form. It's a much simpler form in so much that most of the form is, did you get approval by the IRS 501c3? So we did that. This was submitted. I got the return receipt from the state of California. I believe it was dated the 1st of May is when they stamped it, and it got back to me sometime when I was at Dark Shore. So this is still pending with them right now, but they did receive it.
We also received mail yesterday. Scoot picked it up today for us, and they have received it, and they will process it in the order it was received.
Oh, okay. Perfect. Oh, the California is what you're saying is received.
Yes, California has received it. They will process it in the order it was received.
Okay. Which could mean anywhere between now and the heat death of the universe. Do we have any other questions about this California tax exempt status form? No. I see we have a new member. Possum has shown up. Possum, can I get your legal name for the meeting notes?
Yes, hello. Sorry I'm late. My name is Darcy Gardner.
D-A-R-C-I-E?
D-A-R-C-Y.
Gotcha.
Gardner spelled G-A-R-D-N-E-R.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Welcome. Okay. Item number 7, an emergency event plan. This topic is actually being run by Royce and Milan, but I will pull up. So Milan put together this lovely emergency event plan. I'm going to preface this slightly by saying that right now with the King City location that we've been using, the King City actually requires us to make an emergency response plan as part of our licensing. The AutoCAD has to go and give a whole presentation on it. However, we have been looking at other sites and what they may not have those same requirements. And so Milan and Royce were, kind enough to go and make this form for us.
Oh, that was all Milan. I was not involved in the making of this form. I just was.
Very well. Milan was very generous in making this form for us. So Milan, if you do you have anything you want to say about this form?
Yes, I'd like to say thank you to Theos for doing 99% of the work on it. That was very kind of him. But yeah, this form, and Ethan would know because he was around all of last year and all of the year before. It's amazing the amount of work that this guy does. But we were making this form because it was asked for. When we were doing the 501c3, it was not required, it was highly suggested. And this is one of those back burner things that wasn't necessary, but we just wanted to create something to cover our backside, so to speak. So if something bad happens and we as an organization get targeted for, well, what did you do to proactively prepare for this? We can say, look, we did the form, we did the thing, we covered our backside. And that's all this form is for, is to cover our backside. I encourage people to fill it out at events. And there is no need for an emergency preparedness form for day-to-day existence within Westmarch. So we decided to create an event form.
Yeah. Now, one of the questions that came up is how do we ensure that this form is completed and, compliance and things like that?
There's an overarching plan to create an SOP template for all future event stewards so that when Kevin or Sarah gets an event, we can say, great, here's your easy to fill out form with everything. Name, who, what, when, where, why, how, and just make it super easy because our event stewards do so much work. We should find a pathway to make it easier for them. And if we have easy to fill out forms that just are simplistic and straightforward, perhaps we can take some of the weight off of our volunteers.
Yeah. And, speaking about that event thing, so for those of you who don't know, if you go to the AmpGuard wiki and, look for the Westmarch BOD, these are our Westmarch BOD forms that we have. Some of them are just, helpful process forms. Several of them relate to, taxes, things like that. But if you scroll down to events, which is item number 7 here, we have our event budgeting spreadsheet, our post-event review form, our how-to autocrat guide, written by one of our knights, and our event bids that I previously received. Actually, I have not gotten a copy of the one that we just approved for Feast of Gods, but this exists. Sorry. So this form would get uploaded there. These are mostly forms on to help autocrats run events, to make sure they, as Brian was saying, they have a lot of stuff a lot of plates they have to juggle. And as a result, the idea is that these forms should help them, make sure that they don't drop any of the critical ones. So my opinion on...
Oh, no, please go for it, Ethan. Sorry.
I was going to say, my opinion on this is that this form should be there as a helping document to help the autocrat, but is not something that the board of directors will be explicitly looking for before every event. That we are expecting the autocrat to do due diligence and, use this form or have some equivalent safety plan. Brian, back to you.
Game Olana's budgeting spreadsheet, Drent's how-to, the post-event review form, the current or the previous Westmarch event bids. Eventually, all of those are going to be collated into one easy-to-use document. We're not there yet. We're all volunteers, obviously. So, it's one document at a time right now.
Yeah. And for anybody watching this recording at home, when we talk about other documents, like in the Corpora or in our other area, this is where a lot of them are stored for the BOD one, and the others are stored in the CA AmpGuard page under documents. And a lot of these are actually hosted on CA AmpGuard, and then we link them here just for easy lookup. Okay. So do we have any other questions or topics that we'd like to talk about for this emergency event plan? No. Okay. Perfect. Anybody willing to, are we all willing to move along?
Motion to close.
Perfect. Moving along. So item number 8, there was requested that the BOD reach out to King City City Council. Yes, it's 2 cities in a row, to inquire about King City's site and its problems. I did add a note that the San Lorenzo Park is actually run by the County of Monterey.
This can actually be closed. This is a moot point now because as has been announced, Fog is no longer in King City, so just our very lack of presence should provide them a statement about it.
Okay. Would there be a desire to potentially reach out just to make sure,
This isn't a guarantee that we're not going to use the site forever forward. And part of the deciding factor of if we return to King City or not is if some of these problems are resolved. And I think that it would still be worthwhile to have the conversation given such a long-lasting relationship and it's a place of comfort and familiarity. So while we're not using it with immediacy, so there's not like a time limit on this conversation right now, I do still think it is a worthwhile conversation.
Okay, so this is typically where I'd ask our liaison to do the reach out to them and have this. So I guess I should talk with the liaison, or unless somebody else wants to take the lead on this.
If we're going to reach out, it should be through like a letter on maybe Westmarch letterhead and say, hey, we have used your site, a site in your city for 10 years now. We have, or more actually, we have decided to opt to go somewhere else because the King City Park hasn't been meeting our requirements. My understanding and why I recommended this, because I was the one who put this on the agenda, was we have reached out to the King City City Council before and said, hey, the park's trying to jack up their rates they charge us, and they have intervened on our behalf.
Okay.
If the liaison would like any assistance with formulating that letter, I'm also more than happy to help. I agree with Theos's words as well for the contents of it.
Okay.
So this might be worth postponing to next month until Dash is back.
Yeah, I'll reach out to them in the BOD chat or other way to see if, we're able to get this started and, maybe have a draft of this letter for next month. Just that way we're not starting from scratch, next month. But yes, because we have at least a year-ish or at least 6 months to get this drafted and sent over to see what can be done. I agree with that. Okay, anything else we'd like to talk about with this topic? Moving along then. Item number 9. Who is authorized to give a donation receipt on behalf of Westmarch? Theos, this is your topic, but I have input.
So we now have 4 books of receipts for Westmarch for donations. It's very useful for Fog, where on-site people are turning in donations. However, we should have an electronic one as well if people donate money or whatever through electronic means, because there are other ways to send them electronically. It was just kind of something we should discuss. I have really no opinion on who should or should not sign them, except for the PM should be included on the list, the treasurer should be included on the list, and the monitor should be included on the list.
Yeah, so what I was specifically trying to find is I thought there was a sentence in here under the board of directors for the Kapora that said that the board of directors has this power. Maybe it doesn't anymore. Okay. Yeah, I thought there was something up here in the general information that said the board of directors is really, we get this 10.1.1.1, which is deal with any government or outside agency, business or organization, or any of the local chapter subsidiary local chapter, subsidiary chapter. Wow, that is terrible. With regard to contractual obligations. So my statement on this is that I believe that the board of directors, all of the members here basically have that ability to do that signing of donation receipts. The PM, as a member of the board of directors, would have that power, obviously. Because I would try to treat this as dealing with an outside government agency or business or organization, in so much that if people want to donate $5,000 to the Westmarch, that the board of directors should be the one sending in that donation receipt, because that is a legal form. Any other comments from the crew?
Nope. It just, like I said, there's nowhere, we haven't had them before, so there should just be some designation.
I think it's actually the BOD are the only authorized. Is it submit donation receipts? Provide donation receipts. But I would like to get, 10.1101 clarified, just to be more explicit about this is like fulfilling like a business, an outside agency or contractual obligation. They're not government documents. What are these donation receipts? They're business documents? What's the right wording here?
They would be business documents because we would be signing them and giving to people, and they would be using for their taxes.
Yeah. So that is the statement I'm going to say, which is the BOD are the only authorized members able to provide donation receipts unless we amend the Kapora in some other fashion. Reading Kapora 10.111 says the BOD can deal with outside organizations and contractual obligations. The donation receipts are business documents and therefore fall under the purview of the BOD to handle. Does anybody agree, disagree on this concept?
I
Sounds
agree.
good to me.
I just wanted it written out somewhere.
Okay. It is now written out in our meeting notes. Okay. Anybody else have any comments on item number 9? Okay, let's move on to item number 10 then. Merchant sales. Royce, you want to sell shirts.
I want to sell shirts. I want to sell water bottles. I want to sell all kinds of stuff that is branded with Westmarch's emblem on it, and any events. Like if there were popular events in the past, we should sell water bottles or stuff on it with popular events logos on it. That way we can leverage our 501c3 status to help us earn a little more money, which lets us afford better events.
Y'all, hear me out. We make a line of products that have various members from our kingdom on them. Like, oh, cool, my water bottles came in. I got a Rourke and a Sebastian. What did you get?
We're making a tradable collecting card game now?
Yes, I was going to say we could do that. And that actually was mentioned by Cackles at one point.
Yeah, specifically though, it would have to be
game.
Westmarch brand.
Correct. Westmarch branded, Westmarch people, etc.
Yeah. I was trying to find.
They might need to sign the ability for their likeness to be used to make money.
Oh, totally.
So
Yeah.
we kind of already have this in the waiver that everybody signs, in so much that it says we are allowed to use your photos for marketing purposes.
Now let them be voluntary.
See,
Yes.
but that's marketing purposes, and I'm not sure legally if there's a different argument for money making.
Let me go find a copy of our waiver.
I mean,
Where am I?
legally isn't so much the issue as like morally.
Yes.
True.
It's not like we're going to hurt anything. I mean, anybody who doesn't want it on there, we shouldn't force it on them because, oh, you signed the waiver.
Well, yeah, then we would at least have to ask, which, that sounds like consent.
Yes. Now the question is that's the digital waiver. Yeah, specifically what I was trying to say is um how formal does that ask have to be? Is it just the monarch goes and has a conversation with them and is like, hey, I'd like to put your face in a water bottle? Or does we, the BOD, have to go get a piece of paper to have them sign it where they say, yes?
I would say so long as it's written somewhere. So if you get a message on Discord and you can screenshot it, we have evidence. That kind of thing is admissible in court.
And there are pretty easily available form templates for use of photography of a person for stuff.
Y'all
I
are
know,
thinking
like
about it in the reverse way. Advertise that you can become one of these collectible trading cards. Submit this form.
Oh,
Now this form is the one that says they want you to do it.
VIP package for the next event. I mean, sorry.
hey, I'm totally down. Actually, I was going to talk to Cinderheld and be like, hey, you guys planning on doing VIP stuff? I can help.
Yeah.
We actually
Well-
are. We have a pretty solid VIP package put together already.
One of the
Okay.
things about this was me and Sebastian talked about it at Dark Troll. Depending on the site we use, and I'll talk about this more in a second, depending on the site we use for this, we can order pre-made like favors at cost. So it's not labor on our volunteers to do it.
Oh, because of the 501c3 status? Like, is that why we could do it at cost for ordering?
It depends on the relationship with like if we use a site. So like you were saying Zazzle does that, Sebastian?
Yeah, so like if you go through Zazzle, you can just if you have a business account with them, you can buy the items like, like a mug, typically it's $40 or $30, whatever it is to purchase it. But if you're the business account and you're purchasing it for you, the business, because then the idea is you're going to resell it, you can buy it for like $15 or $18. And then the idea is then you would mark it up to 25 or 30 and make money. But because we're a nonprofit, we're not looking to make profit. So
That's not quite what nonprofit means in this sense. Nonprofit means it's not for somebody individuals in Richmond.
yeah, I'm just saying our philosophy of we're not here to nickel and dime our people. But yes. I was trying to see if I could very quickly. There's a document I was trying to find, but it is not being found quickly, which is unfortunate.
So I wanted this brought up because it's something we should think about and we should discuss because it is an available option we can use to help Westmarch afford maybe better events. Like Monkey said, hey, why doesn't the kingdom invest in additional stuff after events? This is a way we don't have to take funding we'd already used for events from this. I said water bottles because me and Silent Judge from my park were talking about it, and somebody says, I'd buy a water bottle. I'd buy 3 of them.
I was explicitly trying to find the ACOM board of directors. They went and did an entire thing, and they did a whole big marketing push. And I was trying to find, because it was in their BOD meeting minutes, about how much money they actually were making off of it.
I wasn't. The other side of that, though, is a lot of people play Amtgard. Their passion lies with their local kingdom, so a Westmarch branded item may sell better than an Amtgard branded item. And worst case scenario, we say, okay, we made $100 total. It was a bust. Best case scenario, we say, hey, wait a second, we're helping to fund our events.
Yeah, I also think that along that line, I do agree that like land items, right? If you go and take the Wyvern Spur logo and slap it on a water bottle, which I think Wyvern Spur does already, um, that would sell more with the Wyvern Spur people than just like a thing with the Amp Guard logo on it.
That would also lead back into daggers. Got to collect them all.
Yes.
We make a custom award if somebody does collect them all.
Additionally, in merch sales, because I know it was talked about before and we've never brought it back up, we need to do something with the trailer. Either, hey, you buy X amount of space to put whatever art, sticker for your land, whatever on it, a contest to paint the whole sale, something we can do, or paint the whole trailer, something we can do to help recover some of the money from that sale.
Are we talking just an art competition for who's gonna paint it, or like it's an auction item and you bid for the right to paint it?
Auction item. You bid for the item to paint the whole you bid for it to paint the whole trailer. Like I don't know if he's joking or not. Clanaw says if he wins, we're painting it 70s wizard man.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
But also aside from that, you buy X number, say a 5x5 space on it. So you can put a sticker for TR or your fighting company or whatever on there. So we get some advertising. Obviously, we have to have a kingdom sticker on them too.
I have an idea for that I think that would be equitable as well as profitable. It's like an art competition. Submit your design for what you suggest this should look like, and people vote by donation.
That's cool. I'm down with that.
I'm just trying to think because I love all these ideas. Okay, so it's not a raffle, so we don't have to worry about like the state, for gambling or anything like that. It's just an auction. And then what, the winner is the only one that pays out, or does everybody who puts in $1 pays out, even if their design loses?
I would say you're donating and the money goes to Westmarch. And if your particular design does not win, I think it's acknowledged that you've just donated to Westmarch. Doesn't mean you're guaranteed anything.
Well, and it's not a raffle, and we wouldn't get in trouble for gambling or for prize things because everybody has an equal chance of winning. It's a contest based on donation.
Okay, there's a whole section in here of the Office of Attorney General's guidelines for charitable fundraising. So guess I should go look through that. Okay. Just to make sure. I agree overall, but I just want to make sure that, the first big fundraiser we do, we don't muck it up,
I put the notes for what we were talking about as an idea in the chat just for reference.
Okay, thank you. I think I will leave that ultimately to Royce or something like that. I guess I can add them to the meeting notes for the board of directors. Okay. I was going to say one other thing, which is I know that Thistledown in the past has had some sort of merchant thing. I think it was primarily for SSD, so they might be somebody to reach out to and talk to their experience about this. It's just another option. Royce, did you have anything else you would like to say? No? Okay. Anything else about merchant sales?
I was muted. I've been talking for like a minute. I reached out to Thistledown and Azus both about this because I was told they had done it in the past. One had but didn't have much success a long time ago, and the other had not done it. So it really wasn't a whole like thing.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, shall we move along to the next topic then?
Hey, Robert. Hey, Rod.
Perfect. Okay, seller's permit. More on you, Royce.
Hit my unmute button this time. So it might be in Westmarch's best interest at this point to get a seller's permit. If we're looking at merchant sales, some of them, like there are a lot of sites we can use that it's not, we're not the seller, the site's the seller, and they just give us money. But if we were to say, using Tackles' idea, can't do that and sell it, then it becomes we're responsible for paying the sales tax depending on how it's sold. There have been lands talking about and reaching out if there's things they can do to sell items. Like one of the things suggested was at Fog, this coming Fog, somebody said, hey, can we sell sodas or Gatorade or whatever for a little over the price? Well, to do that, then we're pushing out of our provision that we use now, which is colloquially called the garage sale provision. It's for occasional sales. And at that point, we would have to get a seller's permit. The returns, sales and use tax returns, not hard. We would just have to either eat the sales tax, include it in the price, which there's a special sign for, or collect sales tax. For who's responsible, it would either be us as the seller, or if it's through somewhere like Cafe Press, they're what's called a marketplace facilitator. So if we did it through our website, then we're the seller. eBay and other places, they're what's called a marketplace facilitator.
Yeah. Now, as far as there is one thing that's always been kind of interesting, and I just kind of want to it's tangentially related possibly. We've had people in the past who, have small private companies or whatever, or Etsy shops, who have expressed interest in setting up a booth at one of our events. We typically have left that to the event autocrat to say, yes, they're allowed to set up the event, or yes or no. And then we just say they are responsible as an independent entity to do all of the appropriate things by law, and that we are just allowing them to be in our event space.
That is the correct application of the law.
Okay.
We're not the seller in that instance. They are the seller. Therefore, they are responsible for the sales tax implications.
Perfect.
The other way this protects us is like if we sell food tickets separately, which is, like I said, twice a year is what we've been doing, but there's been people expressing interest in doing events more often too. If we sell food tickets more than twice a year, well, twice every 12 calendar months from each other, then we have to start charging sales tax on the food portion of it.
Yeah, this has been another interesting thing. I was talking with Jason, who was here earlier, concerning about whether or not the lands are like independent entities, or they're part of Westmarch. I've always been under the impression that the lands are operating on behalf of Westmarch, that any money that the land has is being held as the local representative of Westmarch there. The prime minister is the one holding the money for the kingdom. And that's why when they leave the kingdom or the land closes, the money goes back to the kingdom, because it's not really going back to the kingdom. It was always the kingdom. They were just holding like a local cash box effectively for that. So now if that land is hosting an event and it sells tickets to that event, it leads to this whole other question of, well, the land isn't a different entity. If they're doing it on behalf of the land, they're doing it on behalf of Westmarch. If it is Steve Smith doing it, then it's just Steve Smith. Like Bear Bear sponsors Dungeon, it's a Bear Bear Dungeon event.
A good example of what you're saying is the upcoming Flurtastic. Crimson Wood is doing it, but Crimson Wood technically is a wholly owned subsidiary of Westmarch. They don't have a separate entity of any form from us. Therefore, we would be responsible for it. So if they sold tickets as opposed to donation, then we would fall under that 12-month.
Yeah, and I think ultimately kind of what I'm looking at here is part of the seller's permit, because it does sound like this would be something that we really need to look into. We really want to look into, I should say, because it there's a little bit of cost to us, but ultimately a lot of gain to us.
So there's zero cost to set up a seller's permit with California Department of Tax and Fee Administration. Everything can be done online nowadays. And realistically, the only cost is when we sell at an event. So I'm going to use fog. We would use the tax rate at the tax rate in Tres Pinos, whatever the location is. There is a very good website on the California Department of Tax and Fee Administration. You can go on there, type in an address, and it tells you what the sales tax rate is in that place.
Do you happen to remember what the name of that website is?
It's California Department of Tax and Fee Administration.
I believe that is cdtfa.gov.
Should be cdtfa.ca.gov probably, because that's what my email is.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, I'm kind of speaking as a subject matter expert on this particular thing. So if you hit tax resources there,
this tax fee rates.
Yeah, that works too. I always use tax resources. Research and data tool. Oh, tax guide for local jurisdictions and districts. There we go. Scroll down. All right, this is trash. I'm just gonna do these away. Give me a second, because I know exactly what I'm looking.
Find sales and tax use rates by address.
Yes.
Perfect.
That would be it. You type in the street address, the city, and the zip code, and it tells you the tax rate there.
I don't remember what San Lorenzo Park is. I'm just going to use it as an example. Nope, not that one. I want the one in King City. Just as an example.
Sadly, it's built badly, so you have to separate the city and the zip code. It does not use the state because California sellers don't have to charge tax on the state of California. I can tell you at minimum it's going to be 7.25%, given that it's in Monterey County. It takes a minute.
Okay, well, I'll let that run in the background, and I will add a link.
At minimum, 7.25% in sales tax for the kinds of things we would be selling. So it's a little trickier, like if we set up online sales, but that would be for any sales at an event. Online, it would be 7.25% unless we hit over $500,000 in sales a year.
And then we have a new, easier to solve problem.
Yes.
Because you have over $500,000 to solve that problem.
Yeah, and in that instance, you're responsible for collecting district tax everywhere that you ship to. Otherwise, it's 7.25% or whatever the location you are selling at percentage is.
Y'all, I don't know if this will actually apply. It probably doesn't, but I don't know how to do all the looking up to figure it out. But we do have a lot of vets, and I'm at least am one 100% permanent and total disabled vet. I get a lot of benefits from that. One of them is no tax and fee waiver on California business license. Do y'all want to look into seeing if you can get that applied to you?
That's slightly different from this.
I trust you.
Yeah, this is my job, so I mean, um, there are very few things that are not responsible for collecting sales tax. Vets is not one of the exceptions. Now, if we can form an Indian reservation out of Amp Guard members,
That would be, I don't think we have that many.
then we could totally get an exemption. But that is good for other taxes. Like, for example, if going back to the idea I referenced earlier, so see right there at the bottom, it's so they have an 8.75% district tax, meaning that Monterey County charge or an 8.75% sales tax. Monterey County charges the state rate of 7.25 and then an additional district tax of 1.5 for whatever you sell in that area. For Dagger's thing, though, if we bought from, say, Home Depot for the reusable items that for fields and stuff, then Dagger can buy it at a discount, which is useful information.
Okay. So this sounds all good stuff that we should do. Now, Athena, as our treasurer, I believe this falls to you.
Okay. I'm gonna be honest,
Unless,
I need to
do you
catch
think
up
we
a little
need
bit
to do
here.
sorry, do we think we need to do an all thing for this? I think this falls under the purview of the BOD. It does not need to go to all thing.
So we're saying it'd be in my purview to check out about if California Veterans Department would be able to offer the 501(c)(3) as a whole, like veteran status,
No,
or are we just talking about if individuals on behalf of the nonprofit are making a purchase that could potentially receive a veteran's discount? Like,
the
I
seller's
need,
permit.
The seller's permit is free for everybody. You just have to go on and file it.
Yes. So
And
okay.
I can walk you through it. I do it several times a year when I run audits and people have changed entity types.
Yeah, I'd be more than happy to do that if I had a note about go here, do this. Okay. That was not the last part of the conversation I heard, so that's why I was like, what?
yeah, sorry. The bulk of the conversation was should we get a seller's permit? It sounds like yes, we should get a seller's permit, and then we need to figure out what that process is for us. So, Royce obviously the expert on this, but I also know you're doing a million other things right now. Uh, if somebody else could, help you out in writing down like a quick guide for, event stewards or people in Westmarch, like to sell things in the name of Westmarch, what do we need to do to make sure that we do it right? Because like getting the permit is one thing, tracking the actual sales is the other.
Yeah, that's a big difference. And that's kind of going to be if we have to either set a steward to do it at an event or whatever, that's perfectly fine. I can help with tax rates and stuff ahead of time because I conveniently have non-public available resources as well.
This sounds like a perfect segue into the last topic.
Yes. Which is one way to help us out if everything goes through this process. So I'm actually going to, oh,
I was just going to say, as to Dagger's provision there, he messaged me separate and I know what he's talking about. And so veterans are exempt from sales taxes for certain items. So like if you see the big one that they talk about in all our stuff is the Buddy Poppy. It's a little like lapel pin type thing. When veterans sell those at veteran functions, they are sales tax different. It's
gotcha.
specific to veterans functions for certain veteran fundraising things.
Okay, fair enough.
And I can find the relevant law section later if you guys really want to read some sales tax law.
I think I am all booked up reading the Office of Attorney General's guide on stuff. Okay. Okay, and then right, I was going to ask Athena. Is taking that action. So that way we can hopefully start figuring this out and get this on by the next BOD meeting. Yeah. Now, item number 12, as Leon was alluding to, is Westmarch getting its own Square account. This would allow us to better, more easily charge, credit cards and stuff like that at events, as well as some other options.
Yes, that is correct. It also has an inventory management system that gives you a complete list of all of the things you have sold through it ever. It charges a small, I think it's like 6% fee when you withdraw, but that's for their service. I actually have a terminal and reader I'm willing to give the kingdom for that.
Make sure to get a donation receipt.
Now, I know one of the things that the BOD of the past, has typically been concerned with is fees. We've tried a bunch of different websites. We've tried a bunch of different things. Like we have PayPal, for example, and that goes directly into our bank accounts and things like that because they have ultimately low fees. So part of my stance is fees are the cost of doing business as long as they're not egregious. 6%, it is what it is. Like even your best ones are going to be 3% plus typically some 75 cents sale or whatever.
Let me just double check what the fee is. It's right on their website homepage.
I'm going to say I look at a lot of credit card processing things, and 1.5% is the lowest I've ever seen.
I'm
the
sorry,
average is 3%.
I'm sorry, it's 2.6% plus 15 cents.
So
Doesn't Azus have our CA amped card set up to do transactions?
There is a module in the back end that I do believe he has set up because we've taken sales like that in the past. I'm trying to remember whether or not we've actually used that for sales.
Yeah, do we know what the costs are on that?
Not off the top of my head.
Are you asking like if we were to list an item, what the set rate for sales tax is?
No, the cost that we lose to the processor.
Ah,
Additionally, this ties with both 11 and 12. If, for example, we charge that 2.6% to a credit card and we say, okay, your event ticket is $100, it comes out to $175 because of the credit card processing fee. Or sorry, feast tickets. You buy 2 feast tickets because those are taxable. Then we would charge tax on the full thing, including the credit card fee, because this is part of the cost of the sale. And it is not optional to the person if we charge it.
Yeah. So just for those people who aren't aware, CA amped card backend, we do actually have a store function on CA amped card. So we can create orders, sell orders, search orders. We have a processing cart, and it even comes with sales reports and stockage reports if we keep those up to date. So this part does exist. I'm not sure, as I said, if we've used it in the past.
We have because we did a auction through it for Feast of Athena.
Yes, so it does look like we actually did this. Apparently we had a bunch of orders in May. Apparently we're making money. We should talk to Zeus about this.
I pointed something out useful.
Yeah. I think this might actually be how we've been doing some of the event sales.
Correct.
Yes,
Yes,
these
that was event.
these are all receipts from sales to people. and they're all in the 30 to 60 to $120 range based upon tickets. So this is how we've been doing ticket sales for events. So yes. This is a lot of PII, and it goes through PayPal. So yeah, that's routing through PayPal. Okay. So yes, that is another option for us. And at the very least, we can offer it as an option to our autocrats of just like, hey, here's an additional, more convenient function. I think so far in the past, Athena, you obviously just ran the most recent one, that if people show up and they want to pay by credit card, we kick them to the PayPal page through the CAM card. Yep. So that's how we've been doing in the past.
My understanding is there was one issue with that. One person had an issue.
There was more than one. That was Rourke and Ita both were not able to process through CAM card for some reason, and they had to ultimately transfer money direct to the PayPal.
Did it seem to be more an issue of just like it wasn't properly, their
So
PayPal wasn't properly set up or something like that? Or
with PayPal, you have the option to check out as guest or to sign in and check out. What seemed to be happening with them is they were trying to check out as guest and would constantly be like, wait, there's a problem, and try to force them to sign in, and then it couldn't. And it just was cyclical. It was nonstop. There was no way to fix it. So thus, Ita on site paid with via transfer, and then work was resolved at post event.
Gotcha.
They were the only two people who had that problem, so I'm not sure if it was they were using an app or their browser's out of date or just some kind of incompatibility. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it's a 2% failure rate, which isn't bad.
It's not fun, but it's not terrible.
Yeah. Okay. But yes, we will, I guess, offer this as an alternative option, noting that this may be more expensive than our current existing system.
I will note back to 11, Square is really easy to work with for sales tax stuff.
Okay.
I would also note that we used the Square system at Dark Shore 2023 to much success.
Okay. As my dad would have said, and he used to do business consulting, make it as easy as possible for them to give you money. So giving options and allowing the people to choose the one is very viable. And if the answer is yes, we just, it's at $30 and then we charge the extra 2% on top of that. It's just like a fixed fee. So it's 31 or $2, whatever that works out to. And then we just make sure that we track the sales tax for the fact that we're bundling all together. I think people will be willing. It's a convenience fee basically, and they're willing to accept that. Yeah. I think this closes topics 11 and 12?
Motion to close.
Perfect. Do we have any walk-on items? I think I did actually have a walk-on item that I listed. Give me 1 second. I'm just thinking, wait a second, I listed something. Ah, yes. We have to update the statement of information for the Secretary of State for the new CEO.
Correct. It's on my to-do list.
I will assign that to Royce. Royce, go do it. Okay.
I will at a later point, yes. Before
I
the next meeting.
I'm getting myself in trouble, but like, weren't we going to be doing the Dark Shore review this event or this
You'll have
meeting?
45 days.
Correct.
I thought that was like on the agenda.
Nope. 45 days.
45 days.
If you want to give an update about how Dark Shore went, though, as a walk-on item, we will not complain.
I can do that. I have it all in front of me.
Perfect. I can even allow you to share if you wanted to.
Yeah, I mean, I might as well. It's not all 100% buttoned down, so I was gonna at the time be like, "Hey, sorry," but now I don't have to apologize. So you know what? I will show you what I have.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm going to try to avoid showing like too much personal details, but
Well, this is being recorded, so.
Yeah, it was basically we have 137 confirmed attendees. Um, and based on, I have the receipts of everything, just only a few to be uploaded. Total expenses was 5,218. Online pay and then the total cash amount that we received would total 8,890. So the current estimated net income is the $3,671. But
Site only charged us 2,800?
2,170, which was wild, and I actually don't know why.
Wow. That's like $2,000 less than they charged us last time.
2,000 less?
Yeah, we got charged almost $4,700.
ETA has a very good relationship with Donna.
Okay, I can show you everything that we got charged for and at what rate. We were budgeting for 2,800. So even 2,100 was a surprise. But 4,000 is nuts. That's great. I think that might be basically a problem of if folks were paying extra days for the Dianza building is an addition because we only paid for 2 days. And if you pay for also Thursday and Sunday, you're going to be paying a whole lot more money. But they offer
They
great.
forced us to pay for Thursday and Sunday for Feast of Gods, or Wednesday and Sunday for Feast of Gods.
That was
And
probably it then.
we explicitly went out and asked them to waive that because they've done that in the past, and I think we maybe got Wednesday waived, but they
So
did
that's
not
an
waive
extra
Sunday.
that's an extra $1,800 right there.
Yeah.
Yep. So that's a big amount of it. And I have the information of who all bought meat plans and the prepays. We still have some things to button up about the info for waivers and such, but that is a high-level overview of attendees, income, etc.
So what was the total profit at this point?
At the moment, we have $3,671. And I realized, however, that I do not have ability to track refunds. So that is something I was asking for assistance with because I realized there's a couple duplicates on file and likely some people got refunded that I was not aware of.
Are we still recording? I think we are.
Yes.
Make sure you go through what was just shown on the screen and make sure it cover up anything that may have been PII.
I will
Okay.
do what I can.
Yeah, just make the note. I don't know if anybody's information was on some of those. You did click them through really fast, but somebody can freeze frame and read people's, I don't know, credit card
No,
numbers
none of
or
that's there. It's first and last name, basically.
cool.
The
The
worst
one that can get
case,
you is on receipts if they have their shipping address there.
Yes.
there's no addresses that were shown. There is partial phone numbers, not the entire phone numbers. And
Maybe still just if you can't edit the video, just cover it up.
I just cut that at least. You don't have to worry about like
I will figure
censoring.
out video editing at some point this week then, apparently. So I do
YouTube
want to
does have a
point.
tool for it if you are
Yeah.
uploading to YouTube.
So I did want to point out that this was the event site fee for Feast of Gods 2024, which is the one we just had, and they charged us $3,700 in the end for this, and this was not including the alcohol permit, I believe. Oh no, this was including the alcohol permit. So
Yeah,
this was what that fee was.
y'all had to pay 4 days for everything, which is not what we
Yeah.
paid.
And the big one is normally we only pay for the Dianza building. The youth area is typically not charged separate. This time they charged it separate. The application fee went up from $50 to $150. This is why a bunch of our site fees went up. Oh, and they required us to carry additional insurance. So our insurance went from $250 to almost $500.
Well, we paid $466 in insurance, so that definitely has gone up as a whole. And the issue is we only paid 3 days camping and 2 days Dianza.
Yeah,
I don't know what the
so
application fee was.
yeah, so the insurance for this was 438 is what we paid for the last two Stugots. And this is all stored on this bids and stuff device, which is available through the AmpGuard wiki page. Anybody can go look at this. These are all the ones I hold on my personal drive. These are all documents that have been provided publicly in the past. So anybody can go look all this stuff up. And I have it sorted by event mostly. So, and of course, I would love it if, If Athena, whatever you finish it up, you and I can talk about potentially storing the Dark Shore 2025 stuff. And Leon, as you start working on the Feast of Gods 25, anything that you're willing to kind of do publicly as far as like the bid or something. This whole point of this references is that if people want to go in and see like what does the bid document look like, they can look at the last few years. They can look at the last few years of audit forms, event site fees, and just like help them put together future bids. That's why this whole
Yeah, I just got to
document
go through and
exists.
update the bid form with the Trace Pinos information.
Yep, sounds good.
I will say on the Feast of Gods, Trace Pinos is actually providing us the insurance through them.
Wow.
For $150.
That is an amazingly good deal. Okay.
The site's a little more. It was like 3,600 total, but
still less than what they charged us for last year's Feast of Gods.
Yep.
Yeah, because if you go back to like the Dark Shore event before that, it was like very similar price. I think it was like 3,500 or 33. Like the price has been going up consistently.
Yeah. So with Trace Pinos, what they're charging us is they're charging us 1 day use of the building we're renting, but we get it all weekend.
Nice.
They threw in the main lawn area, which is normally its own rental fee. And they gave us a group rate with the camping area. And they charged $200 to serve alcohol.
As long as service ends at 9:30.
Service has to end at 9:30. Loud music has to be done by 10 if it's outside, 11 if it's inside.
Yeah, that does sound much nicer. I am excited for that. We will love to hear more as the bid matures. Well, not bid. You guys want it. As the event matures. But yes, so Athena for next time. That should be. I think that's 45 days. Yeah, I'll be about 60 days at that point. So, within your 45 days, please get all of the relevant bid information over to Leon for the review of that. Obviously, we just added to the Kapora that you, the treasurer, cannot audit your own event bid.
Yeah.
So we'll figure that part out to make sure that it is properly audited,
reviewed,
and that we're all good.
Reviewed.
Oh, right. It's an official term to say audited. Got it.
It has a very specific meaning.
The post-event review form will be completed, and we will review it.
I'll help Leon with that if they need help.
It'll be awesome.
Yes, I'm bothering Royce.
Okay. One other thing just quickly came up. Review. Let's just go with Dark Shore 2025. Boost. Okay. Because it came up a little bit earlier about events in Westmarch events versus events in Westmarch. We were talking a little bit about Bear Bear's Dungeon and things like that. That is an event in Westmarch. It is not being hosted by the company or a land. Whereas Westmarch events are, however, we have some additional like restrictions on these. So it sounds like we maybe need to start clarifying land hosted events within Westmarch and the relevant taxes and paperwork that needs to be filled out for those events. Now, does that go into the Kapora? Does that go into a different document? That is part of the whole conversation going on about just a bunch of stuff with what information lives where. Yeah, because the Kapora is kind of a weird, interesting hybrid document right now. Okay.
So yes, what AmpGuard uses as a corpora is not a corpora from legal looking at it for a business. It's a compilation of stuff. Our corpora should be essentially how we do the necessary functions of the business, like Panal was talking about. Rules stuff should be its own like procedures manual or something like that kind of thing.
And I will explicitly mention other kingdoms keep that distinction significantly better than us. I will say, Black Spires is one of the most annoying, but the Black Spire actually keeps their bylaws, their constitution, and their policies as separate documents.
That is probably the most accurate to how it should be.
Yeah, most kingdoms do that as well in some way, that they have the corpora, which functions on how do we do game things, how do we do awards, what is this silly position of monarch, what are they allowed to do as monarch, and then they have the other document, which is here's our bylaws.
Yeah, and the full name of it is Corpora of Bylaws.
Yes.
So it's a contentious point that goes on. And I asked Milan, because it's been around forever, why Antguard calls it a corpora.
Yeah.
Because it's not what it is in current terms, but
yeah. But like for example, just as like a quick talking point, like the Kingdom of Rising Winds has the bylaws of the Kingdoms of Rising Winds, and then their corpora of laws. The corpora of laws talks about, the kingdom and how you operate and, chapters, whereas the bylaws are this very lovely board of directors, all things governing groups, the formation, like it is a very legal, technical document.
Well, and that makes sense because, like, if we're audited by a government agency, the government agency doesn't care about Circle of Monarchs voting, but they do care about, like, I request BOD minutes and stuff from businesses all the time. So as a corporation, Westmarch, if we have a seller's permit, will be required to stick some people on the seller's permit as responsible parties. And it will, when they change or if it gets audited, there's a form that has to be filled out about those parties. And if there's a change in whoever, like the CEO is, then we have to get a form. We, being CDTFA, has to get a form saying this is the people they changed, here's their information. It must be updated every time these parties change. I don't have my camera on, so you can't see my finger quotes. Nobody actually does it. It only gets updated when an auditor comes in and audits, and they're like, oh yeah, that guy hasn't been here for 400 years.
Yeah. But, still, we should strive to do that. And, it's better to strive to do it and make mistakes occasionally rather than baseline decide not to do it. So yeah, there's a whole section here, and I think it's a much larger topic for the kingdom, which is going to be a difficult topic to have a conversation to have about, like, what does belong in the corpora, what doesn't belong in the corpora, and how we have to do that. How we need to make that distinction, because after having read many other kingdoms corporas, which again are all available publicly through the Google Drive with my summaries on it, almost every kingdom separates their corpora and their corporate bylaws, and I really think we should do the same.
So Clenaw's an accountant by trade as well. That's why he's on this subject recently. We've been talking about it. We've talked at it at Park several times because, like, in our trade, it's very important. So that's why it's been a thing here lately.
Yeah.
And so, and additionally, like, we change the corpora all the time with, oh, we're updating how we decide what a land is, but that shouldn't be in a corpora document.
Especially if it's relating to, like, their contract to us as the corporation. If we say, oh, you guys can, have some silly little game rule, not to disparage the rest of Amcard, but, like, if it's, how they can hand out artifacts or something like that, and, like, yes, we allow land monarchs to hand out artifacts, the state of California and the federal government doesn't care. But if it's, oh, they are able to sell things on behalf of the corporation, and all prime ministers are going to be listed on our seller's permit, like, that does matter.
So all prime ministers don't have to be listed on the seller's permit, thankfully.
Yeah, but if we were to say something like that, is what I'm saying, as just an example.
Actually, realistically, we can get away with updating the seller's permit probably once a year by just putting the president and either secretary or treasurer on.
Yeah, we might also have to, the sales through the CA Amcard page, who would we list those as being the seller for?
So CA Amcard would be listed as the seller for that. The only thing that we currently sell through CA Amcard that would be taxable is meal tickets.
Gotcha.
Because the other is attendance, and attendance isn't taxable, but meals to be eaten on site are taxable. We don't, and so as far as this goes, CDTFA does not report people to health departments, anything like that. We got too much time on our hands. We'll look and see if somebody's selling alcohol if they have a ABC permit. AmCard itself does not sell alcohol, so we would not be looking at that. We sell goods and services.
Yeah. Okay. Overall, I think this is a very good meeting. Does anybody else have any other additional walkout items that we would like to discuss? We do have a follow-on meeting here in a minute just to do the vote to officially get Athena on the bank records, but that'll just be like a little 5-minute follow-on meeting.
I request a 5-minute break between this meeting and the next meeting.
Perfect, because it'll take me about 5 minutes to set it up. Okay, next item, June 2025. When do we want to have a meeting, everybody?
Not the 25th or 26th.
Ideally, nowhere between the 13th and 17th.
I am out of the state between the 16th and the 23rd. So 13th and 17th, 25th.
11th?
The 11th? What is everybody's 11th of June looking like?
I'm good right now.
Yeah, give me a minute just to check my calendars. 1 second, I have
Good
to go
to me.
to another room.
What the shit? Fuck.
If you all heard that, I yelled at the construction worker not to say those things.
Do they get an attendance credit?
They don't AmCard.
I was going to say, do they have a waiver? Okay, yes, the 11th works. Is that at least 45 days from the end of Darkshore is the next question.
Ooh.
That is
30
days.
So what about the 25th? Or was someone
No,
against...
the answer is we can do it the meeting after. We could do it in the July meeting because I think you actually get to the end of June, right? Roughly?
Yes, it would be the end of June. Actually, it would be 45 days, would put it, the end of June, 26th in that area.
Yeah, around the 26th, 27th. That would only give us 2 days to do the meeting. We're not going to have it on the 30th. So I think the 11th is fine.
That gives you an extra few days.
Yeah, and then we'll give you an extra week or two, but still submit it to the Prime Minister in time so that they have the ability to review it before the BOD meeting in July.
Yeah, you got it.
Perfect. Okay, so June 11th, 2025. 6:30 still work for everybody?
Rah.
Yeah.
Do it.
Yes.
Perfect. And with that, we can end this meeting. Let me stop the recording.